Good morning, adventurers.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey,
Good morning. I hope everyone is having a wonderful short rest with us after your long rest. Welcome to session 0 of the Arcane Recovery Podcast. I am Ryan, or Orion, the voiceover artist, fellow Dungeon Master, alongside our other two co-hosts here today. Oh, I know. You're thinking, like, well, what's going on right now? You only see 3 webcams and you notice that we have guests? Well, hold on a moment. I want to take a moment to introduce our other people that we have hosting the show. Um, Elijah, what's up?
hey, everybody. My name is Elijah, known online by Eggy or Eggy McBagelface as my alias. I'm very excited to bring you this wonderful podcast show that we put a lot of hard work into. Um, and yeah, also, what Orion forgot, good
Oh,
afternoon to everybody else on the Eastern Hemisphere, and good night as well.
yeah. Go to bed if it's late for you as well.
And I would
Go to
like to
bed.
introduce our third co-host and my very good friend Daniel.
Hi. I'm Dan or Daniel. I am the one of the cast members of this show, as well as the producer, and kind of do a little bit of I kind of dabble in everything, but most importantly, I'm here with my two friends. In case you can't tell, these two are from the Isle of America, and I am not. Uh, I'm Irish, in case you don't know. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Put that
I'm
on a
very excited
shirt.
to be here.
Put that on a
It's
shirt.
very
I'm
Irish,
Irish, in
right?
case you
know.
didn't know.
In case you didn't know, I'm Irish. Just on the off chance that that wasn't very obvious to you. But yeah, we have a very good show lined up today. We have two very awesome guests with us.
Yeah.
But should we explain a little bit more about what it is we're doing here first before we bring them in?
Absolutely. Just for a
Absolutely.
moment before we get to our wonderful, beautiful people that we have backstage right now. The Arcane Recovery Podcast, at least for this month, is a weekly Saturday midday short rest podcast. We talk about all things D&D and have wonderful D&D guests on with us. After which, it'll be a bi-weekly short rest in between our main campaign called the Arcane Recovery Campaign. Season 1 will be DM'd by our wonderful co-host, Iggy. And you'll see myself and Dan, as well as a few other wonderful individuals. Spencer from Dragons of the Round Table, and Cybus from the Forbidden Library, also as players. We will also have guests
Oh yes.
occasionally. Yes, we will also have guests occasionally on that as well. And yeah, so oh, thanks, phone. Thanks for letting me know that I'm late. I literally sent a reminder on my phone saying, "Hey, you're late for the podcast." So appreciate that. I was already. We're already
There
late.
seems to be
Good
a
to
theme
know.
going
Good to
on
know.
here. Good to
Yeah.
know.
So Forbidden Library is here in the chat as well. So if we want to give hearts in chat, I know Cyrus is out here, Sc0rchyy as well. Can we just have hearts in the chat just for everybody involved for there is so much more than what you will see on the screen that went into Arcane Recovery as a brand, as a whole. It took the entirety of a collective of individuals that just loves D&D and loves entertaining, working together to make this show possible. There's too many names to count to name everybody off that has put their heart and soul
It
and
is
their hard
very
work
true.
and talent into what you will see in the coming months. So, without further ado, let us do further and introduce our guests for today. Hello, everyone. Hello, you two.
Heyo.
Hey, there we go. They appeared out of nowhere.
Where'd they come from?
Where did they go? What do they do?
Where did they come from?
Got an eye.
Joe. But yeah, do we want to let them introduce themselves? Kind
Yeah.
of what they do, whether they're involved as a guest or whether they're involved in this show. So who wants to go first?
who wants to take the flame tongue long sword and introduce themselves?
Sc0rchyy looks like he's getting
After
ready.
you.
Okay, sure. I was just like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Sc0rchyy, locally known as Christian. But yeah, I am local friend and fellow DM or D&D player of these wonderful people. Yeah, I'm just here to have a good time.
He's
Uh,
also the resident
Oh, yeah.
music guy.
Yeah, that
absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. So in the coming weeks, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off from this. Sorry. So in the coming
No, you're
weeks,
fine.
if you
Go for it.
if you do hear some amazing soundtracks, during Arc itself, the campaign itself, thank Sc0rchyy and Kit Kat. They're working together to do wonderful, wonderful
Oh, yeah.
scores. And speaking of scores, Sc0rchyy, you are getting artist accreditation for Arc's first EP soundtrack for Campaign 1. The scores that are going to be composed by yourself and Kit Kat will be released as an EP score itself on a separate Spotify album. So,
Ooh, how exciting!
Dang.
So that'll happen.
So that'll happen.
I wanted-
Stay tuned for that, boys and girls.
I've been
and
waiting to tell Sc0rchyy this.
non-binary pals.
I've been waiting to tell Sc0rchyy this. I've been wanting to drop that on him, be like, hey, the stuff that you're working on for Arc is going to be an EP.
Absolutely supreme work being put in by those two.
Mm-hmm.
And
In all our departments. Here.
And the I don't want to say it just you know what? Screw it. In the star of the show, at least the actual.
Yes, me, the star. No.
Tis I.
Tis I. Hi, my name is Lance. I use they, them pronouns. I go by Dice Knight on all of my social media platforms and stuff like that. Everybody that loves D&D here in the chat may know our clickety-clackety math rocks that we all use. Yeah, I make them. And I post about making them on my TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else. And then I play D&D with these wonderful, wonderful people and a handful of others. And
Hey,
yeah, I'm just here for a good time, really.
If you don't know who Dice Knight is, you might have seen them on Orion's stream for my Sc0rchyy is just
Sc0rchyy dropped.
Sc0rchy's gone. Where'd he go? He's dropped into the void.
Oh no!
But yeah, you might have seen Lance before on the one shot that I ran on Orion's Twitch. Welcome back, Sc0rchyy.
Yes, that one shot was absolutely
Oh, it
absolutely
was so
fun.
much fun. So much
It was
fun.
it was a lot of chaos because I had 7 incredibly seven amazing characters and 7 just amazing players at the same time, and I was just having an absolute blast with that. That was just so much fun. But yeah, welcome to the show, both of you, Sc0rchyy and Ants. Great to have you guys here.
it's so
Great to be
it's
here,
great to have
be
y'all here.
Is absolutely. I actually have a few. Can we get hearts and social media love to these people? Sc0rchyy is TTV Sc0rchyy, as you'll see spelled up on the screen, and Dice_Knight on TikTok. The rest of us find us on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow our social media in general, Arcane_recovery. But anyway.
Yeah.
This is session 0. It feels like we're just getting our wings here, right?
Yeah,
Our wings.
it's a takeoff, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I have actually a topic that we can talk about right away that's related to this. Session 0's in and of itself. A lot of you guys are somewhat of experience in being a dungeon master or been around a lot of dungeon masters themselves. And maybe been a part of a lot of startup campaigns that might have never took off the ground. If you play a bard.
Yep.
Mm,
For sure.
So let's talk about session 0's in and of itself, because I think that's a pretty interesting aspect of D&D and getting a lot of the party members to get to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think session 0's are a really important part of a D&D campaign in the beginning, especially if you're going into it with new players.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of helps you like learn the basics, and gets everything all hooked up for people's characters and stuff. And some people can even do session zeros along the line of like fitting in some actual gameplay. But a lot of the time, I see a lot of session zeros. They kind of take the route of like no gameplay period, and it's all like technical stuff, like making characters. Like, what do you guys think about that? Do you guys think session zero should be solely spent on technical stuff, or there should be no RP?
Well, it depends on what world you're going to be playing in. I know for myself, like, a lot of people will play in Wildmount, for instance, so they have a bunch of knowledge backed up by watching Critical Role and other shows like that. So I don't think it's necessary to go over the lore or the world necessarily if you're going to be playing a campaign where you all already know it. So then it would just be spent on technical stuff. But say you're in a world that your DM has created and homebrewed like themselves, and you're entering it for the first time and you're like, I'm going to make this character. And your DM has to go, okay, I love the idea, but it's not going to fit in the world. So you can't have it in the world, which can be very tricky. And that's why I feel like session zeros for that are kind of necessary.
Yeah,
Mhm.
kind of covering the basics of what to expect from your players and what your players expect from you as a DM, and kind
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
get to discuss what kind of game it is. You know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all those points. See, I don't run modules, or at least not yet. My first module is going to be run of Curse of Strahd here pretty soon.
Nice.
Yeah, I love Curse of
Ooh.
Strahd. I was a player twice in Curse of Strahd, and I would always play it because every single DM plays modules differently. Without getting too off into modules, which we might talk about later. Session zeros, because I run homebrew, I need a little bit of 50-50 for session zeros for introducing the characters into the world, because sometimes that takes a while to get them established and homegrown and feel like they belong there. Um, I did a session zero that I streamed, and it almost looked like a session one. Um, so I would help introduce the characters, get them grounded, without them revealing their classes yet, just in case they want to switch it up but want to play the same person, and then they hop in and realize, oh, we have two clerics on the team, and if someone wants to
Right.
switch it up, so I won't have any encounters planned on session zero. It's just lore and getting them taking their first steps into the world, into their first adventure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pretty
That's-
true.
I would
Yeah.
say, yeah. I, at least for me, I like to do a thing with my home game that I play with my personal friends that when we start a new campaign, we've been doing this thing now where the characters don't know each other's player characters.
Mhm.
And they kind of just start in fresh. So usually if I do a session zero, it's mainly for like knowing the world and such, and like a small intro to what they're getting into, just giving them what they need to know.
Yeah.
There is
And
something
the
that's
most
I think there's like this air of mystery that's really exciting, um, to introducing your characters completely freshly new to each other, and them not having like prior knowledge of each other, because it's like, how could this play out? There's so many like infinitely possible ways that it could play out if they're just like these fresh faced people meeting each other, and there's like this dynamic of if they agree with each other's like motives and everything. It's just exciting. I like that. I like that air of mystery a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like when setting up characters for different campaigns and stuff, especially if it's going to be a long-term campaign that you're going to play for a while with these characters, I feel like you should make your character almost with your DM in a way, where it's
Yeah,
like you build it slowly and you have the basic outline in your head, like I want my character to be a druid and I want them to do this, but as you're putting together all the pieces of your character, discussing those pieces with your DM in order to make sure that it fits with the rest of the party and fits with the world just right. Otherwise, I feel like it can take away from the overall
Yeah.
experience of the campaign.
I tend to take
Absolutely.
hands-on approach. Like I do that with the games that I run. I always like talk individually with each player and help them construct the character themselves because I feel like it's easier for me to be there and help them with it rather than
Mhm.
it them to make the character and then be like, actually, I know you probably already have the character's story plan in your head, but we're gonna have to change a few things.
Right.
I feel
and
like
if
it also gives a good gateway for the DM to slide little bits of mystery into your backstory that will come up later.
yeah,
For instance, I'm in a campaign currently, and my character, I was like, okay, yeah, my character, blah blah blah, they're a druid, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. These are my parents, like blah blah blah. And he's like, do you want a brother? I'm like, sure, I can have a brother, like that's okay. And he's like, is it okay if he died when you were young? And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's a suspicious thing to say. Links it
That
back later in the campaign to one of the other characters, and
that
it
leads me
was
to another thing I wanted to discuss as well. Is that like it's super important to build your character with your DMs, and Orion knows
Oh
that
yeah.
with my characters that I play with them, I end up writing these like 7-page backstories, and like that's not even the end of it. There's so much more that I want to like put in the story, but I'm like, okay, I need to back off. Um, and
I
then
need to
he takes what he needs, and he puts his own twist on it. He helps weave the story of like my characters and everything.
Mhm.
But that's another
my
thing is that go on.
my character backstories are typically like bullet point important information stuff, and then outside of the like master Google Doc of the timeline of their life, I go in and I'm like, okay, what were the interactions of like their childhood like with this certain character that interacted with them, and this and that, and the little details don't necessarily always need to be on the master Google Doc, but they need to be saved somewhere, and that Google Doc, the informal Google Doc, is very, very long for many of my characters.
Yeah.
He's trying to show off the story I wrote for my
And
character.
I'm just gonna show this. This is the
So
short.
the-
This is the short version.
That's a
Yeah.
novel. That is a
The
blurb.
the way I
That
do it
is
is that
that
like
is 7 paragraphs, sir.
instead of the bullet point stuff, what I like to do, how I tell my characters' backstories, is I write it from this narrative point of view.
You have the long
Um,
version.
you have the long version. I sent it to you in Discord, I remember, a
I
while
look.
ago. But
I'll look, but I don't think
yeah,
so.
what I do is I write it from this like narrative point of view, and it's very descriptive, and it doesn't exactly tell everything from their story, like their parents or their family, but it tells a very life-changing event
Mhm.
in their life that like sort of made them who they are
Mm.
at that time.
Yeah, I'm
This
kind of the same as Lance with like I do like the bullet points, and it's like here are the people that are important to them. Here's what he looks like. Here are some like small like quirks he has or personality things he has. Or and like then from there, I just kind of as the story goes on, I'm like, okay, let's develop this, and then it kind
Mhm.
of things come up, and
Yeah.
it can be edited.
Yes. This is my let's
You
see.
might have to turn your screen
My
brightness down like I had to do.
I have to turn it down. Okay.
Oh, we have the same phone.
Wonderful. This is
Oh.
just the
Oh
bullet
wow!
pointed list. And it's
Oh.
not
Oh,
that character is also not done yet. I still have a good chunk to
Really?
write
Oh.
down for them.
My
Mhm.
character in question, his name is Magpie. He is very very far from being done, um, and he has so much to go off of still.
Yeah, I'm.
how do you make characters, Scorchy? Like
Um,
what's your
What's your
backstory?
What's your
method?
backstory meta?
It's I usually struggle to fill up that little backstory section in the character sheet. That happens sometimes where I'll get a really good character. Like
Mhm.
one character I have is Jakar, my blade singer wizard tabaxi. He has like a 3-page Google Doc, but like other than that, I usually I usually write with the bullet point kind of mindset where I just kind of highlight the most important stuff or like one big part of their background and then I generalize the rest like, oh, and then they spent the rest of their lives blah 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 blah. It just depends really on the character. But I often, when I make characters and I try to fit their backstory in, I try to do that after because I like to have the character set up first. And then that gives me an idea of where to go from there. So like, for example, with the character I recently made, I was like, okay, I really want to play a druid. Circle of Stars seems fun. And then I chose, a Pallid Elf looks really cool because we're playing in Wildmount. So I was like, so this Pallid Elf probably what we eventually got to, she's a priestess in training for the Pallid Grove, and that's how I got there. I kind of just build off from the meat and the stats, and then get to the backstory because that's just the type
absolutely.
of creator I am.
So
That's
Oh, go ahead.
Go on.
No, all right. I was gonna tie into some writing into backstory stuff. So all of the characters, think about all of the characters you've ever made that you put a lot of like love into their backstory. Does anyone? We'll go through everybody. I'll start from top left and we'll go clockwise or down the line in Discord. But I'll ask, what is a very obscure detail that you've put for a character's backstory? What's something so obscure and out there and random that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the progression of your character's story in D&D?
I have one.
That has nothing really to do with the depth of their character, but it's just an obscure detail that just adds to their identity. Dan?
Okay, I have one.
We'll start with Dan and we'll go down the list. I'll go last.
My first ever D&D character was a human sorcerer. His name was Finbar. He was a rich boy, and so he doesn't know where he got his powers from. He suffers from memory loss a lot. But one of the features that I have in my notes that is underlined is ambidextrous. For no reason, I made him ambidextrous, and he also doesn't like cabbage. He just has a weird obsession with the color red. Just has nothing to do with the story. He has a red coat and he's ambidextrous and he just doesn't like cabbage. Nothing to do with the story. I've played that character for so long, and I just haven't even gotten the chance to show that he's ambidextrous. It's just there on the off chance that I need to prove that I'm ambidextrous.
His ambidexterity, is that what you'd call it?
I would say it's an ambidex roll.
Okay, yeah, it hasn't come up any point in the campaign at all.
Nope.
Damn.
I haven't even. Finbar hasn't written anything. He has a book that he hasn't written in, and nobody has paid attention to him if he ever does write.
If he's ambidextrous, could he be proficient with 2-weapon fighting?
I don't know. He uses a trident.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
So you can have him hold a trident like this, and then have him swap hands.
Yeah, he can do it. Yeah, he's dominant in both hands. He's good. He can do a little dance.
he could fight and paint at the same time.
He could. Finbar probably would do that.
He can honestly, pat his head and rub his stomach, at the same time.
Oh yeah, multi-talented boy.
Very
except he can't remember what happened 2 days ago.
Nice.
So Lance, not a whole lot to remember.
Lance, obscure details of a character.
So this is just a obscure detail that is very specific, and it means like a lot to me as the player for some reason. But my one character, Astrid Wheeler, they're a druid, an Iron Druid, which is a special class that we came up with, and it doesn't matter. But they've got long like red hair, and their mom is like Sudanese, which is one of the countries in the world. and so one of the Sudanese traditions is like hair braiding and stuff like that in different ways. And so their mom, when they were little, would braid their hair a lot. So now whenever they're out and about and whenever they wake up or they're getting ready to go to sleep, they always make sure to like braid their hair in different ways, and they'll braid them in like different patterns in different ways. On my Pinterest board for this campaign, I've got like 50 images of hair braids in different styles of like what they'll do for their hair, and it's just like a little detail that is there and will always be there in my head of just like Astrid takes the time to take care of their hair and braid their hair like their mom did when they were little.
Nice. I like that a lot. You could
super wholesome.
That's awesome.
Real wholesome hours.
Also,
how crazy
almost.
do the hairstyles get? Like, do you have like a Marge
So-
Simpson style where like it coils up?
So mostly what they'll do is like along the sides, like here where I have my hair shaved, they'll braid it back and then it'll come down and it'll braid down their hair, almost like Jedi braid akin, almost, where it'll bring down, and then because their hair is red and pretty, and so they still want to show off their hair, so typically they'll have parts of it that is not braided, but parts of it are braided in order to accentuate the rest of it that's not, if that makes sense.
Sounds cool. Oh.
Nice. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Sc0rchyy.
Sc0rchyy.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Alright,
we're going down, I guess, in video order.
Yeah. So, I'll go back to my character Jakar. He was raised by a high elf. He was a tabaxi that was like abandoned basically on accident by like a tabaxi caravan, and then a high elf took him in, a high elf wizard. And so I did this. There's this really small detail about him that like I really have never covered whenever I've played him, is that his ears have high tufts of hair on them. So like it'll be his ear, and then he'll groom his hair to like tuft up like that.
So it looks like an
Because
elf ear.
Yeah, so it looks more akin to an elf ear, like his adoptive father.
Oh,
That's so cute, dude.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's adorable.
Dude.
He's
That's
my
so
Also,
adorable.
You always fail to say that this character is a child. You've told me about
Yeah.
the character. This character
Jakar
is
is
a child.
supposed to be 16 whenever I play him, and his dad died at 14 for treason for teaching him blade singing because it was like elves only.
Touch gets you right in the field.
So he's like tufts of hair. His cloak
That
is
is
his
very
dad's
feels
old
heavy.
cloak.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna start crying when Dan said his character doesn't like cabbages, but like when Sc0rchyy just finished it off.
It
Yeah,
is a good one.
that's a
Yeah.
fun little thing.
So that was
Who's Ryan?
Elijah, actually. I'm going last.
It's Elijah. Okay.
I don't even know where to start. I put so much unnecessary detail into all of my characters. And some of it's funny, some of it's feely, but my best one that I probably have to mention right now is, for a long time I had this character. His name was Bruno Griswold, and he was this like kind of like half deformed simpleton Goliath, who never wanted to hurt anybody. So he became a paladin because he never wanted to cause harm to anybody. So every time, like, he'd always do non-lethal damage, and he'd heal enemies and stuff because he didn't have like a very good understanding. But that's not even the random part of him. The random part of him that I thought would be funny is to make him obsessed with lemons. And so the DM told us to give him like a random quirk, and he didn't know about our quirks before we started, and I just like, it'd be really funny if I made him obsessed with lemons. It ruined the DM. Probably the biggest mistake of his life to tell us to do something like that, because in session 1 there we all started in the tavern, you all meet in a tavern and everything.
Right.
I asked the DM if there's like any lemons behind the bar, and he says sure, there's a couple barrels full of lemons, and my character goes berserk.
You could have just said there was like one, but he was like, "There's barrels of this."
Iggy,
Yeah.
Iggy, is it literally like the chocolate guy from SpongeBob?
It's kind of like that, but like the voice actor for him, he sounds very much like a simpleton. The lemons, oh, I love lemons. He gets all excited like that. So I don't know. Down the line, the city ends up getting invaded. The whole tavern's burning down. I don't save anybody. I save only the barrels full of lemons.
Jesus Christ.
Priorities in check. Let's go.
Priorities, and like Bruno scoops him up in his arm, and he's running down the street, shoving lemons into his mouth, and like just eating them.
What race and class was he, if I may ask?
He was a paladin Goliath.
Goliath paladin. I fucking love it.
Nice.
Lemons.
Right.
Oh.
No, this better be the most obscure thing because you have a fair bit to
I do.
live up to here.
I have two characters, and one of them Eggy knows, and you know. One of them's my Azamar fighter Maverick. He is allergic to cats. Very highly allergic to cats and to
I have a
folk.
character that's allergic to cats as well.
Oh my god, yes! Maverick DeLeon is highly allergic to cats and catfolk, and he, if he's ever around a tabaxi, he'll cover his mouth and keep his distance, and people think he's being racist. But
Racist?
yeah.
People think he's being, racist.
No, it's just like, sorry, I can't breathe around you. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What the That's
Anyway,
messed up.
That's messed up. All right, but a kind of a feely, but not really feely. Yeah, kind of feely. My Circle of the Wildfire Druid, Asher Jund, he has this wildfire spirit, that has this companion that was passed down by his grandfather and his grandfather before that and his grandfather before that, and he's a wood elf, live in seclusion type thing. He is colorblind. He can't see reds and oranges, so he can't even see his own wildfire spirit, like in his true form, the way he presents itself. So he's colorblind in red.
He can't even see the.
No, he can't. He can't.
Why are all these things so like heartwarming?
He sees his fire as shades of like deep, deep violet and slate gray.
That's kind of pretty.
That is kind of pretty,
gorgeous.
Yep. So he is colorblind. For
okay,
the red spectrum.
Bet, how long do you think it's going to take for one of us to full on cry? Like, we've gone close. Who's going to be the first one to cry on the podcast? Not today, but just down the line.
Oh boy.
Probably a few
maybe
episodes in dark.
maybe I might cry in character during the one shot that I'll be running. Maybe.
Wait,
I'm playing a lot of grieving characters.
Which is something that, like, if after this podcast, if you want to stick around on the channel, our lovely guest Lance is going to be running a very cool murder mystery one shot.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking a 45-minute break in between the end of this podcast and the start of the one shot. We will still post out updates on Twitter, by the way, so make sure you're following Twitter at Arcane_Recovery. Speaking
Anything
of
you
crying,
want to tell us about that?
Oh, do we want to talk about like as a whole, all of our socials and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah, we can.
Sure.
Okay. We have at Arcane Recovery. Is it Arcane_Recovery on TikTok? Is it Arcane Recovery all one word? It's all one word.
Arcane Recovery Show, I believe.
On TikTok.
Arcane Recovery, all one word
Recovery.
on TikTok. Arcane_Recovery on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and if you're catching this video late, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I know you're watching it on. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, and you're not seeing our weird gestures that we're doing, and you want to see this live instead of a few days after it goes on air for the people on iTunes and Spotify, you can come over to twitch.tv/Arcane Recovery Show and see our faces instead of just listen to us.
And see it live. Watch us think about things in real time.
In real time, because we get
Watch
to
our gears turn in our heads.
Information. Okay.
And also ask us questions at the end of the show that we'll take answers, do answers for the people in chat. So that's another benefit to watch us live.
Watch us live right now. Stop what you're doing. I know you're listening to this on Spotify. Stop. Go watch either the video that has just went out, or wait patiently on the Twitch channel and wait for us to go live.
Another
next. Don't
Saturday.
leave
Do
your
not,
chair.
do not sleep. Do not use
Do not eat. Do not
If
sleep.
you leave, you cannot watch the show.
I don't care how long it's been since you've last seen your mother. Sit down, have a listen, have a watch.
This
Come
is
on.
secretly turned into a game of Call of Cthulhu. You cannot get up from your computer and you take 7 insanity points.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
7
Yeah, that's so much.
7.
each day
We
or
bring
each
our
minute?
chaotic energy.
Oh yeah, we bring
Every
it.
day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every day.
Every day you
One
take
day.
7 sanity. Yep.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Every
But
day
yeah.
you slip further.
Looping.
That is our socials.
Yeah, those are
yeah.
socials. Appreciate. Looping back around to how long is it going to take to cry? We have all probably been in a D&D campaign where we had probably the most heartbreaking moment, the saddest moment we ever had, or we made somebody cry as a DM ourselves.
Yep.
Can somebody cry as a player count?
Yeah, it
Because
says crying as a player count or as a DM making somebody cry.
there have been
I
a
cried
multitude
in
of
my
times.
game. I cried in my game Thursday twice.
What?
Which now totals 4 times I have cried while playing this campaign.
Oh my
Jeez.
god.
Is this game with
I,
people at Dice Cream Sandwich?
No, this is not. This is my home game that this is a group of people that I'm currently working on making a podcast with.
Oh,
Which
really?
we're slowly getting started. We're putting everything together. We're just waiting on one more person to get their character finalized, and then
nice.
we're gonna get started in testing different things. So I'm
Really?
very
Hell
excited
yeah.
about that
Oh,
personally.
that's cool.
One thing I am very proud of as a DM, I think it's like such a milestone accomplishment if you do end up making one of your players cry.
Mhm.
And not from like, like you've been so abusive and like they're crying because their character's like being beaten to the ground, but like through story reasons.
Precisely.
I've made my character or my players tear up and cry before, and I'm just like, man, it's such a fulfilling
Mhm.
thing to
Yep.
bring
The
that
only
suffering.
crying allowed is crying in character.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On top of that, I am also super proud in Orion's campaign as a player. I have made another player cry many times with my character and through our dynamic with RP and everything. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been a good time.
I'm trying to think of if there's any particular like I think I've made one of my players tear up before because basically his whole village was destroyed by like a necromancer, and basically I made him have like a flashback dream sequence where like he saw his children being murdered in front of him. No big
Oh.
deal or anything, but made him tear up a little bit. That was great. New player and everything. Brand new player. His like 3rd session, he was in tears basically. But
Well,
Yeah. I have a pretty good one. That's
for it.
I told this one in our Dan's old podcast, High Charisma, Low Intelligence. But
yes.
so basically, this is in the home campaign that I actually am running on my Twitch now. Every Tuesday. But what happened was these 4 people. We have Undead Monk, we have a Bard Kalashtar, a Rogue half-elf, and then a Dwarf Artificer. And basically we're playing Lost Mines of Fendelver because 3 of these players are new. My partner is the only person who isn't the new player. And they're all running to Fendelver, or in the Lost Mines campaign, and they get to this part where the young green dragon shows up. So the bard, my partner, blasts the like tower where the dragon's in with Thunderwave on accident, not knowing that a dragon is in there. So I'm like, well, you probably disturbed the dragon, so I'm gonna have it pop out. And so it pops out while they're in the middle of fighting like 5 ash zombies and a giant spider.
Oh
And they're
no.
level 3. All of them are level 3. And a young green dragon flies out and attacks them. Yeah.
what level are they?
3.
Oh man.
The dragon uses its like breath attack. I was gonna have it do a breath attack and then yeet out of there, and be like, "You better be gone." But the breath weapon hit them pretty hard, and it killed 2 players outright at the same time.
Oh.
It was the Kalashtar Bard and the Undead Monk, and then the dwarf only survived because he had absorb elements.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Ooh.
So,
Ow.
and it led to like them mourning for the Kalashtar because they had met the quarry spirit inside the Kalashtar already. And they were like, dang, and the quarry spirit like left the Kalashtar body and was like, no, like weeping, and then the rogue, with the help of the druid that was there, the NPC druid, snuck into the dragon's lair to grab a scroll of Revivify, snuck back out, and the dwarf had to pick which player to revive.
Oh no.
And it was wild. And now the whole campaign is based on the other player's death and bringing them back. But like,
That's such a good.
it was a very epic and sad moment, just like trying to get revenge for they also killed the dragon in the end, but like getting revenge and just
Nice.
mourning for their friend.
Nice.
It was
I like
yeah.
that touch of them going back for the scroll a lot.
That's a good touch.
Mm.
Oh shoot! Now I gotta talk about making people cry. I have made people cry more times than I can count, and I've ran 3 homebrew campaigns that each lasted about a year, in counting. I'll touch on a few really key moments. I don't want to take up too much screen time here. The very first time I've made someone actually break down and cry was my very first campaign that ended up falling through after the first 2 arcs. There was an Azamar, divine soul sorceress, who, TLDR, her wings don't work because of some very ill things that her mother had done to her, thinking that, oh, her older brother, her twin brother, that they were both born twins, like her and her twin brother were born, and the father was all like, yes, we finally have a man to take on our name, and he's going to be a celestial, just like their ancestor, things like that, and they're going to take over the head of the church. And it turns out it wasn't him. She got the celestial blood and the celestial soul, and all of a sudden there's just like this weird champ moment of like, we expected a son to be a celestial blood, that kind of vibe. So when her character became a teenager, I run variant type Azamars where they have biological wings, similar to feral tieflings with biological wings. So her wings begin to sprout, right? I was like, well, we can't have that. Her mother was like, okay, we can't. Okay, hold on. People are questioning too much of what's going on with the church. Your twin brother is now like wanting to get swords training and things like that. He's 14 now. He wants to get swords training to become, a paladin, just like your father. And he can't cast magic at all. Even if taking an oath as a paladin, for some reason, he's just a normal guy that swings a sword. So it's like, okay, you have a second soul in you, which is the divine soul. You have 2 souls. You have the soul that you're born with and your divine soul. We're going to take your divine soul, we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to give it to your brother. Because you were both twins. Just like transplanting a kidney to you and your twin brother, it should be fine, right? Heh! Not really. Went horribly wrong. Her wings stopped working. Her dark vision, she lost her dark vision, and her divine soul went dormant. That's all in her backstory. Fast forward to the crying moment. Fast forward to the crying moment. She is a 25, 26, 6-year-old woman who's been long since ran away from home ever since this thing happened, and she goes into these prayer states where she still has a somewhat of a link to the celestial plane, even though her divine soul is a bit broken. Well, there's something called the 10,000 steps that I put in Mount Celeste, where you just walk with your spirit guide and you just talk to them like a therapist, basically, to help you ascend, to help you resolve yourself and things like that. They get to what's known as the 1000th step, and there's this long concrete bridge that goes off the edge, that has no end, that goes off the cliff of Mount Celeste. You walk up to the 1000th step with your spirit guide, and your spirit guide tells you, I can continue to take you to the top, but it will get nothing but more difficult from here, or you can look over the edge. I cannot tell you what's over the edge because everyone sees something different. It's like, well, what, and she's like, well, what do I do when I look over the edge? It's like, once you look over the edge, you will be so indulged with what you see, most people cannot turn back away, and they just walk off. Knowing that they fall from the celestial plane, they become a fallen Aasimar, and they get everything that they ever wanted. She walks up to the edge and looks over, and she sees her wings working, she sees her dark vision working, she sees that her and her twin brother are both Aasimar. He's a Scourge Aasimar with a celestial soul, and she's a protector Aasimar, and her family's happy, everything like that, and her church accepts her as a celestial blood finally. And like I begin to describe how her eyes go black because of it's everything that she ever wanted, and she wants to walk off the edge. She gets grabbed. She turns around, and it's her mother, her celestial mother. So she was, and it becomes later that she was lied to. It's not skipping generations. It's not a skipping generation thing. Every single female has been an Aasimar throughout her entire lineage, and it was never looked up upon until now. And she was crying, like holding her, like don't do this, like I'm so sorry for what I did to you. It was just that us as females aren't looked at as pure celestial blood like our male counterpart, thing like that. And it was a moment where her eyes, like her all of her feathers on her wings started to fall off and grow black. Her eyes went black, like she was about to like leap off to get everything that she ever wanted, all the powers that she wanted. But she was going to abandon her celestial guide and become a fallen and get everything that she wanted. And at the end of it, they walked back on the end of the bridge. He says, I am, and her mother says, I'm sorry, but I'm also just like you. Her mother gave her broken half of her celestial soul to her own daughter, and she became a full protector, Aasimar, and her mother is now just a normal human. And you see that in Mount Celeste, it says, they hug, and she fucking disappears. Because she doesn't have a celestial soul anymore, so she can't go to Mount Celeste anymore, and she just said, goodbye, my daughter. I know you ran away from home, but this is goodbye.
Jeez, what?
And that was...
I think we can end this here. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening.
I need to go take a mental health day after
Yeah.
That was the first time. That was the first time we made someone cry. I made someone cry.
Do you know what would liven the atmosphere? Let's play a fucking game, people.
Let's play a game. Dan has a game for us.
I wrote a script the other day of just wacky characters, and nobody has seen it. I'm going to send it into one of our voice chats. Once everybody's having up, we're just going to do cold read of this script, and we're just going to see what happens. I will be doing the...
It's the script! I forgot about the script. Oh, man.
There, it is now in our little chat. Everybody open it, and once you have it open, let me know.
This is going to be interesting. Can't wait.
Don't read anything. Don't read it. Just open it, and whenever you have it open, let me know. We'll kind of go through the beginnings. I'll introduce the different characters. Just give the brief descriptions I have.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go from there.
Boy, this is a whole script.
Okay. Does everybody have it open?
Mine is
open.
I'm opening. It's loading right now. Okay. Yep, got it. I'm
Sc0rchyy, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the characters we have for this script are Peter, who's a young boy who has a low, deep Southern accent, played by Eggy. We have Steve, who is Peter's father, who is played by Orion.
I'm the dad.
We have an elderly man, Winston, played by Lance. And we have Linda, which is Winston's lovely wife, who's being played by Sc0rchyy. So,
yes.
Whenever we're ready, I shall read the first line. I'll be doing all of the stage directions and narration. This is called new in town. The seat opens. Winston is outside of his house fixing his car. Steve walks out of his house and sees Winston.
Well, hello there, neighbor. How you doing, my fellow man?
Well, hello there. You must be the new residents. How are you finding the neighborhood?
Oh, it's the most splendid. I'm just getting the last of my belongings moved in.
I'm glad to hear you're settled in well. Where'd you move from?
You wouldn't know where it's from. It's a long way away.
I'm sure I've heard of it. Couldn't be that far.
Interrupted
Well,
by
I'll be darned. You must be the new family that moved in. My name is Linda, and this here's Winston. Why didn't you tell me you were making a new friend, honey?
Hello, dear. Well, we've just met. I didn't catch your name.
Oh, it's Steve. I just moved here with my son, Peter. Hold on, Peter, come meet the neighbors.
Enter a young boy, Peter. He is deadpan and appears emotionless.
Oh, hello there, sweetheart. You are adorable.
Thank you, lady. Father, we must complete our task of transporting our goods into our abode. I'm unable to do this job on my lonesome. Join me, Father.
Well, I suppose I best be heading inside. I see you are busy.
Your boy has a very deep voice. How old is he?
He's,
I didn't know my voice was supposed to be deep, sorry.
It's fine, it's fine, keep going.
9, 10, 11,
He's 6. He's 6.
6.
I panicked. They're really intimidating.
Hey! Look, we weren't trying to scare you. We're just taken aback.
They know too much. We must come clean.
There's no need.
Steve and Peter transform, revealing themselves as aliens with multiple tiny eyes and large tendrils protruding from their back.
Dear God, what the hell are you?
We are the Bloom Dukes from planet Trinskop and just a poopy snoop.
Yes,
We have traveled far to experience your planet.
yes, sir.
Oh, wow, your voice is still the same. Why didn't your voice change?
Yeah, accents never were my forte, but I've been practicing. Want to hear my French accent?
Well, sure, I guess.
S'il vous plaît, motherfucker. I like baguettes and croissants. Eiffel Tower.
It's good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Getting back to the main plot. Yes, we are aliens, but we shall not rip you apart and feast on your toes, as long as you keep this a secret.
Oh, we can do that, absolutely.
Our toes? Why our toes? Why
Steve
our
and
toes?
Peter revert back to the human form.
Thank you, humans. We wish you a good day.
They head inside.
That was terrifying. At least they didn't kill us.
Why did they specify our toes? I told you aliens were real, but you never believed me. I guess I'm not actually crazy.
Oh, you absolutely are. You've killed 13 people, and most importantly, you like pineapple on pizza. Ugh. You monster.
It was actually 12.
And scene.
Fucking hell.
Can we get a reread on the fucking planet name?
Okay, so the
Trenda
planet
Spectra
name-
Jim Poopy Snoop.
Yeah, tend respected Jim Poopy Snoop. That's the name of
If
the.
you
of
put
the
hyphens
planet.
in there, it'd be easier to read. But like, it's
Oh
almost
no no no
like-
no 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 no
Reading?
no!
How do you do that?
I was hoping that would be just just it wouldn't make any sense. Tender Spectra.
Poopy Snoop.
Tundra Spectra Jim Poopy Snoop.
Oh, and Eggy, that French accent went exactly as I hoped it would.
Yeah.
See vous play, motherfucker.
Save you
Oh,
play,
God.
motherfucker.
I didn't know you were gonna bust out the Jebediah Briggs voice for a fucking
I said
10-year-old.
Deep South, so yeah.
It just
Yeah.
sounds like French
Well-
1 in my high school.
It was like when you said Deep South, I thought you meant like from the Deep South.
Oh no,
Not
it
like
was
deep
a
southern
low pitch deep
Yeah,
set.
low pitch. That's where I got confused.
No,
That's
but
why
I did want the deep
this
set.
father.
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 Yeah, like that's something that I'm gonna be. I hope to do for each episode is just write a weird script.
Yeah, we'll do a fun script. I think that's fun.
Yep. Our producer Dan, everyone, hearts in chat for that.
I just, because we were talking about crying and sad things. I thought,
Yeah, I'm sorry for,
liven it up with a
dropping
little bit
that.
of aliens.
Oh no, that's a really great story mechanic and like the
It
thousand
is a
steps
really
and shit
good
like
story.
that. Like,
Yeah, the story of the 10,000
Wonderful.
steps on Mount Celeste. By the way, if you actually do manage to go through there's trials that I set up on Mount Celeste, like physical, mental, and emotional trials to overcome with your spirit guide. Once you get to the top, you get blessed by the fucking triad or some shit. I forgot what I actually did. It was like years ago.
That's by some fucking
oh, fucking
weirdo.
no.
Yeah, just the triad, no big deal.
No big deal.
No big
Yeah.
deal.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
NBD. You know. That's
We
another
are.
thing I want
what
to
if-
ask you guys about is character trauma.
Ooh.
How much
Should we take
trauma.
a 5-minute intermission now that we're at the 1 hour mark here? Should we take a 5-minute and come back before we jump into the trauma?
And then come back for the trauma.
Yeah, I think we should come back.
could go for a quick 5e. I could go
Okay.
for a quick 5e, you know what I mean?
All right, we're
D&D
gonna
5e.
we are gonna I'm gonna go back to our little 3-camera panel and Eggy and Dan. Do we want to talk about? Do we have any partnerships? Actually, we do have a couple of partnerships that we could talk about today.
Hmm.
Yes.
Y'alls.
So yeah, Lance and Scorch, you're good to go for a quick 5 if you need to. We'll be right back with those two now in a second, and then we might also take a little quick water break. So what have you got for us today, Orion?
Oh, so this is part of one of our friends, Spencer's little partnership. He's also a member, party member, player here at Arcane Recovery. So we thought we'd give him a little bit of help out. This has been brought to you by our friends that we partnered with over at Describe, DSCRYB. Do you want to describe something as a dungeon master on the fly that's supposed to be really scenic, but you don't know the words to use? Well,
I have that all the time, Orion.
Oh my goodness. Well, you can go over to describe.com/roundtable and go get yourself hooked up over there with their amazing services. So you can be a more affluent, vocabulary ever expanding, and vernacular master of a dungeon master.
But like, what
Personally-
exactly do their products do?
Yeah, well, personally, I don't even have a problem with any of that. But if you guys do, then you go use it. But I just don't need it because I'm better, you know?
Well, you can get these really cool text box that looks just like a D&D module page text box that you can put in your Roll20 handouts or your own modules that you go to publish on the DM's Guild. Bang, bang.
What was that link again?
dscribe.com/roundtable. That's dscryb.com/roundtable. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
The hell yeah is not part of the link or anything.
No. So just to for everybody at home, the hell yeah, not part of the link.
Not part. And also,
yeah.
to clarify,
Footnote.
I don't use this service because I don't need it because I'm very good at describing things already. No, I'm just kidding. Go use it. It's a very good service. It helps out a lot with just kind of setting the scene and immersing people in your world with the surrounding areas. They have stuff for cities, they have stuff for mountain ranges, forests, anything that you can think of.
Mm-hmm. Also setting the scene
Mhm.
for combats to get your players amped up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
It's
this
it's
podcast-
another tool that you
Oh.
can add to your arsenal of D&D tools that will make you become an infinitely better DM.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to Series Seeker for hosting us on their site. Series Seeker is also
yeah.
an archive, a website archive of other fellow D&D and TTRPG podcasts. Thanks, Series Seeker. Appreciate you.
You're freaking cool. I didn't want to curse in case they're PG. I
In
mean, I've cursed in this episode so far, but I hope that their ad reads are. They want PG-13. We did specify. Yeah, Ryan's here. We have to keep it PG-13.
I don't
Even though Ryan being the
have any of
12-year-old.
that restrictions me personally, but during the ad spot it'd be
No, I
nice to
know.
not at least.
Mm.
It's because
Actually,
Opera's here. Opera is a child, so
Opera is a
Opera's a
child.
Well, actually, now there's just the three of us. Do you want to talk a little bit about the actual campaign and a little bit about our characters?
Should we save that for when they come back, or should we save that for just us? Because that could be an in-depth thing to do.
I mean, don't we have Cybus and Spencer to be guests on a future episode this month? We can do that.
That is correct.
We do. We have that for them when they're
We could-
on. We'll ask
we
them
can
about
talk
their
about the
character.
format. We could talk about the formatting of the campaign and
Let's see that.
how it relates to the podcast and what they can do to interact with said campaign.
Yes,
Or
sure.
even let's hear from the DM himself.
Aggie,
What do you
What-
want to
what can you
know?
tell us?
What do you wanna-
What do I tell you? No.
We want to know about this world. We want to know about what's like the format that we're going. How starting next month, how every other week we're going to be doing a campaign, DM by you, featuring other players.
featuring
Yes.
you were gonna say
Wonderful.
me.
No, I was going to say
So-
featuring other.
The world
You
of Arc,
featuring me.
the Arcane Recovery campaign, it's going to be a bi-weekly show that is hosted for about 6 months, I believe. Concurrently, on the off weeks that we are not playing the campaign, we will be doing the podcast here. So we will only be doing the 4 episodes in a row all throughout April. And the campaign is actually going to be starting on May 8th, I believe, is the date that we have set up.
May 1st?
May 1st.
May the
May
actually.
first be with you.
May 1st.
May 1st. Yes. We'll be starting May 1st for the campaign. I'm not going to tell you guys much about the world, but expect some messed up scenarios. That's like the best I can say. My type of style is very grimdark. So it's a little gritty. It gets to the point where it's a dark time. Your characters are gonna be facing all sorts of things that are gonna scar them. That's all I'm gonna say.
More than just
In
physical.
the war torn land of Terra Vermiculus, it's gonna be a good time. You know what I mean?
Speaking of
Also,
this world,
this world.
Speaking of this world,
it is a collaborative effort between multiple
Yes.
dungeon masters. I have put some of my 2 cents into the world building, only because this is a series of chronicles. Arc is a chronicle series where every single quote-unquote arc or story that's told in this world is congruent with the next and the previous in some aspect, one way or another. Either each campaign is going to be set in the near future, far future, near past, or alternate reality. And the Dungeon Master also switches it up. I will be DMing Arc 2, telling congruent stories, working with Aggie on the side with his character, and look forward to it. So if you want to see an ever-evolving, ever-changing world with a progressive story of campaigns in that same world and the same wonderful cast, you can always check us out there.
yes,
I
we're
think
talking
our,
about. One second. We're talking about a evolving map world-changing events that will change the topography of the map and everything.
Mhm.
Recurring people, potentially. And it's just going to be a really good time. And I look forward to the format of what Arcane Recovery is going to be bringing. Not even to mention all the special guests that we'll be having on to star in the
Absolutely.
campaign.
Absolutely. And lastly, by the time you guys come back on May 1st to watch the Session 0 of the campaign, hopefully we will be Twitch affiliated because you've if you've been following the hashtag ARCARG or the ARC, the alternate reality game, I've been putting out tweets and polls relating to the wizard that you see above me on my webcam right now.
Yes.
So
The
if you're
wizard.
watching the campaign, or if you're listening to this post mortem, not post mortem, but post live, we are dead. No, we're not. If you're
Postmortem.
listening to this, you can come over to the Twitch channel, and once we get our affiliate thing set up and where we can accept bits, you see that little category down below this video player. Yes, I'm looking at you over there on the other side of the screen. You can change.
Don't make me come over there.
You can change the course of events that the campaign takes place, and you can alter the fates of all of the players by using bits integrated with suggestions, which will then in turn change the way our D&D game is played. Everything from giving a little bit of bardic inspiration to a player to outright resurrecting them from the dead and everything in between.
You have that favorite player, that favorite character that you just love so much, and you don't want to see them perish and turn to ash and be sent to the void forever trapped. Give us money. I'm just kidding.
Give us all of it.
No, you can, interact, and you can change the story how you see fit. Whether it's something as small as giving them just like a silver coin, all the way up until inserting your own level 5 character. It's going to be a very thrilling experience, and we look forward to seeing this interactive dynamic with the Twitch chat, and seeing how they want to affect the world state and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And lastly, if you're wondering if donating bits to change the way the stream, the D&D game is played out is worth it or not, believe you me, it is. Not only does that directly support us so we can continue doing what we love doing, it will also add you to the bits leaderboard of our leaderboard of the Pantheon. And if you are number 1 at the end of every single campaign arc, your name will be now a god added to the homebrew pantheon of the world.
You want to be a flipping god or goddess? Do you want to have control?
Do you want to have people worship you? Do you want like? Listen
do you
here.
Want to have, do you want to control people?
Do you want to be a god? Like, who doesn't?
Do you want to be able to control people and everything they do or say?
Because just god. Become a fucking god, dude.
So, for example,
head over heels and kiss your feet everywhere you walk. Be a flipping god, bro.
Feed that god complex by actually becoming a god. And with that, I believe our break is over. Let's head back with our guests so we can talk about more bullshit.
Trauma.
Right.
Let's talk about more trauma. Let's bring in
trauma time. I love trauma. Not
Trauma.
actually. I love fictional trauma. Anyways.
Absolutely.
That's awkward laugh.
But like, so what exactly was your question in terms of trauma then?
My question kind of revolves around how much trauma do you guys put into your characters, and how important do you think it is to go through trauma as characters to help build them up? And we're going to go ahead and go from, bottom to top this time. So our first order, and we're going to start with Sc0rchyy, putting him right in the spotlight, the hot seat.
The Discord order, not the video order. Discord order.
Cool.
Yes, the Discord order.
All of my characters are very dramatic. I always... That's just how it happens. Like, a person I keep saying, Jakar, his father died, was executed by other elves. Nahima, who was born into a cult and used as like a pure souled catalyst for an evil being, you know. Just I make a lot of traumatic characters, but I think that I don't think that's necessarily necessary, but I do think that having some trauma is needed because that's just everyone goes through. If we're comparing characters to like real life people and we're trying to make them real people, then everyone experiences trauma in some form, and it's what shapes them to be the type of people they are usually. Because past experiences shape like our ideals and our characteristics and our just the way we think, because we're like, oh, we've had this experience before, so it kind of will affect how I'm going to perceive this one action. But yeah. And
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a lot of really good points because like well, let's hear back from everybody else first.
Yeah.
Ryan, you as well.
Oh, I'm 50-50. When I make a traumatized character, I give them but all the times that I've made a traumatized character, I made sure in their backstory that they had a long enough time to quote unquote recover from it. But those that knew them before know that they have changed, but those that know them now think that they're just normal. It's that complex kind of trauma where if you're a stranger and you're meeting my character who's been through some shit, you think that they're just a little bit standoffish. They're just sometimes a little bit short-tempered. Their sarcasm is very dry. But those that I wrote in that character's backstory will treat them as if they had a completely separate personality. So when the party meets NPCs tied to that character, they're like, why is you don't like Hugs? Why is that person coming up and being all like giving you weird nicknames and doing that like that, and you seem really uncomfortable? What's that all about?
Why are they so standoffish?
Yeah, so I don't openly make traumatized characters. I made recovering characters because I don't want to play edgy. I want them to have something that they had a scar a long time ago, and they've most of the time they've forgotten about it until it just comes up, and all of a sudden they just hit this brick wall, and everyone's like, "Yo, why are you shaking?" And then like, do you need to sit down? Like, what's going on? Are you having a heart attack? And it's like, no, it's not related to that. So it's something that that you don't even know it's there until it just hits a brick wall at a certain point, and all of a sudden it just comes all the way out like a uncorked bottle. On the opposite end of the spectrum, this is an example of Maverick. I don't write trauma really into his story. I kind of put loose threads that can be pulled on. It depends on where the DM wants to pull them, that can make it traumatic or make it all better. So it's kind of like a partially frayed rope.
I can totally get that. I think it's a pretty good approach to have that trauma, and like you mentioned, playing edgy. There's a really fine line with how you present the trauma your character went through their actions and their motives and whatnot. Because there's a super fine line between having a very traumatic character or a very traumatized character and being an edgelord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
You have to be careful to not dip into edgelord territory. That's why I think a lot of players, they end up wanting to do this approach where they have been through a lot of trauma, but they don't know how to present it exactly. And that's how you get a lot of edgelords that are born out,
Yep.
For the most part, with your approach of like they've had enough time to heal and change over time, that rings true for me from Magpie at least.
And
Because Magpie's story
Lugos.
was super traumatic, and Lugos. The whole thing with Magpie's story is that he single-handedly ended up getting his expedition crew like killed, because he led them through a like rocky mountain during a terrible storm, and there was a massive avalanche, and they all died, and he was the only survivor. Um, and he had survivor skills super heavily. He split his face open, he broke his legs, and he crawled. and it totally put a permanent like scar on his psyche forever.
And
Um,
his face.
yeah, and his face, literally his face, and
Yeah.
he goes about his business. He's a totally changed person, and he became like a scoundrel, and he was very like
Yeah.
mentally scarred, and it led him to pursue this horrible life of like crime and like going into hiding and stuff because he didn't want to be like traced back by any of the people's family members or
Yep.
friends
So
or
speaking
anybody
of
who
that, I do want
potentially
to loop.
survived.
I do want to loop back around. Like people that knew him know that he's changed. I do want to. I introduced
Yeah.
an NPC because it's a campaign I'm DMing that Eggy's a player, and there's an NPC that I introduced that was tied to Magpie's story that knew him before the man that he is today. And it was really interesting to see that not only did Magpie feel ashamed to show himself to his former friends that of what he turned into, he was also very much surprised that his former friends didn't say the same either.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the people that he ran into from his past, he decided like, and this, it's a guilt that has been weighing on him for like 40 years. This has happened. So
Jesus.
it was a very long time brewing and like just like festering up in his chest where he just like he finally had to get it off his chest and everything. He ran into an old friend and he's like, you know what? I'm tired of running. I might as well just face what I've done and try to make up for it. And now, I don't know, that's Magpie, I guess. But
Yeah.
that's like very much the approach of like them having time to heal from it and becoming like a different person. But anyways, I'm talking too much and I hate when people talk too much. So
I do it all the time. I talk
Lance.
a lot. Lance.
Yeah. I find kind of what Scorchy said. You don't become an adventurer without having
Yes.
a little bit of trauma. There's
Right.
something has to be a catalyst for your character to go out and start fighting monsters and shit like that. But
Exactly.
I don't think that necessarily like your backstory has to have a lot of trauma. You have to have that one thing that pushes you into like doing the
Right.
stuff that you do. And that could be very well what the start of the campaign is, or it could be something else. But I don't think you necessarily like need trauma if that makes sense. And also if you're going to give your character trauma, it needs to be equivalent with the level of your character, if that makes sense. So if you're playing a level 1 character, it's not really, it doesn't make sense for your character to have like 20 different like traumatic events in their backstory where it's like, and then I evolved and learned and changed. I'm like, you're a level 1 character, my dude. You have not changed that much. And it's like you have to keep that in mind. My character that I've mentioned a few times now, Astrid, I made a meme at the very beginning of our campaign session where it was like the galaxy brain meme, where it's like writing different things of trauma and then writing it to where trauma will occur in the campaign. I gave my character starting out right as the campaign started, like the day before the start of the campaign, they got caught up in a magic storm, basically. And they thought everything was fine. And we're like, oh, geez, I survived that. We're good. But in reality, they were infected with this thing called Drake's sickness, which is going to slowly transform them like bit by bit into a draconic monster, which will occur throughout the portions of the campaign and will move forward throughout all of that. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I told my DM, like, hey, yeah, sure, whatever. I making this character, I was like, hey, I noticed that Dragonborn isn't on your list of like not allowed races, but it's also not on your list of allowed races. What's the deal with that? And he's like, so there's no Dragonborn necessarily, but you can have Drake sickness. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, this is what that is. And I was like, might as well.
Sounds fun.
Now they've got a dragon named Karzan in their head and slowly having scales form all over their body and their jaw and hinges and stuff like that. So trauma should affect you if you write it in the back. Like whether you talk about it or whether you don't talk about it or whether it continues to affect you, it shouldn't just be like an edgelord thing where it's like all of these traumatic things happen and I'm never going to talk about it ever, because
Right.
that's just bad
Mhm.
storytelling.
Right.
And in the
It
end,
is, yeah.
D&D is a collaborative story, or at least in my opinion, it
No, it totally
should
is.
be.
It's
Yeah.
collaborative storytelling to the max, and like
Mhm.
you have to pace out all your characters' trauma and
Exactly.
everything. So
And if
it's
you
so true for like the level 1 thing, yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you reveal all of your trauma, like within the first, like you sit down with a group of people and you just info dump all of your trauma and then it's all out there, that's not,
It's not how
your
people
character is
do
going to
things.
burn out very quickly. It's like
Yeah.
your character is like a candle, and the story should burn slowly and evenly throughout the whole thing, and it shouldn't just be like gone immediately. Otherwise, you're just going to have to make a new character because you've made all of the character progression already.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's super important, and like it's always so hard to kind of manage that balance, because like you always want to be like, oh, I put so much work into this character, I want to tell them everything, but like you have to
Mhm.
wait for those key moments, and that's what
Mhm.
makes everything so much more worth it in the end. Is if you
Yes.
really hold out until the key moments to like spill your character's information or their story and everything.
Yeah.
And turning it from a different perspective, from the player perspective to the DM perspective, you're going to have to like manipulate your player's trauma a bit in order to
Oh,
like
absolutely, all the time.
to you have to play with that a bit in order to, you know, as I said, make a substantial story that'll keep going, and try not to burn that proverbial story candle all the way out, which is a fun and challenging balance, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have such a good story about that, but I can't tell it right now. Too much time.
And using the metaphor of candles, my character Maverick had 2 candles, and I made the mistake of lighting both at the same time.
Lighting 2 candles at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't tend to make traumatized characters. Most of my characters are just flawed. You know,
Mhm.
everybody because not every human being is traumatized or has trauma, but most people are flawed. So, for example, like with Finbar, he has his memory loss, but he's also a bit of an egomaniac and a bit of a narcissist. I think like the most trauma-ridden character I ever made so far is Garcus, the character I played for Dragons of the Round Table with
Oh,
Iggy and
yeah.
Ryan.
Which had a very interesting end to his story. To say the
I
very least.
wouldn't say it's the end of his story.
Well, not the end, but as far as we know at the moment.
Like his whole village was like attacked by like a gigantic white dragon, and like he basically had to turn to a life of underground crime to basically keep his village safe.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, I just tend to write like flaws. Like, and even for my character for Arcane Recovery, again, he's more so flawed than traumatized.
Yep.
I get that as well, because the characters that I write, all of them super flawed.
But like they're not awful people.
No,
but
they're not
they're-
awful people. They just they're having trouble dealing with like certain things, you know?
I think the thing with flawed characters is that like you should have flaws. Your character should have flaws, but the flaws should not be so damning that your party hates you.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
like,
you can't say,
Speaking
I can't help murdering everybody, you know?
Speaking
Yeah.
of being hated with flaws, that's something we can transition to. I'm pretty sure everyone has made that one mistake character. Like, oops, I shouldn't have done that. Can I start with Iggy? Because I believe he is the trophy example. He is the prime golden shining pedestal.
Is that Elijah the Paladin?
No. A light from the heaven breaks open. The clouds part. Angels with trumpets blare. The choir sings. Iggy stands atop the podium and shows off Reginald Trelawney.
Okay.
Wisdom.
Yeah, I like to make characters that are out of the norm, typically. Who like I don't like to feed into tropes a lot of the time that have been done so much. So I want to make a D&D character that was a bard, but I wanted it to be so far from what a bard typically is. bards are very charismatic. They're so charming. They have beautiful voices. So I have made this character, and it's been a recurring character in my campaigns, and I've played him in a couple of other people's campaigns. His name is Reginald Trelawney.
Ducky, if you're
Very
in Ducky, I know you're in the chat.
Ducky.
Be ready.
Ducky knows him.
I know him too. I hate him. I hate him so goddamn much.
So we're talking about a very narcissistic, egotistical man who thinks that he's better than everybody else and makes sure that he lets you know it. He's not afraid to speak his mind ever. To premise this, he is a College of Shadows, or no, College of Whispers. Sorry, College of Whispers bard, human, and his whole story is that he purposely made a pact with the devil to sacrifice his own mother, for the wealth that his father was refusing to give him. Basically what the devil asked for was like the thing that you care about most, and he knew that the thing he cared about most of the time was his own mother. So
Holy shit,
he
dude.
led his own mother to the shrine of this devil and presented her there, and the devil harvested her soul and her body. And 2 days later, his father dropped dead, and he inherited all his wealth. And the worst part about it is, you think that he would have some sort of regret. He feels absolutely nothing. He went on to use his money to become a very famed writer and author, and that's how his bard skills come into play, is that he is a storyteller.
Jeez, just straight at the door. Hey, I want some magical powers. I want to be super rich. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kill my mom.
Yeah.
So he has no regrets about this. And he ended up inheriting his father's wealth. He is a horrible person, and he makes sure that everybody around him is in service to him, even though they're not. He thinks that they are. And he talks with this super, super posh, like, horrible, like, posh British accent. I'll do an example here in a second. But the thing I wanted to say is that he talks down on everybody, makes sure that they're treated like absolute dirt, and doesn't think twice about it. Like, for example, like something that he did
Why
say.
are you laughing talking about this character? He's a horrible. Is there something that we need to,
Horrible
like,
human being.
you need to talk about something, Elijah?
Liz, do you want to talk about Liz?
Unsavory company. Be gone with you. I want you out of my manor immediately, you mangy mongrels.
Yikes.
Oh, heavens. You really are rotten dogs.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much.
He plays a very prominent part in my current campaign, where he has single-handedly funded a cult that has grown to a massive standing.
Oh my god.
And they have wreaked havoc across 1.5 of the continents of the world already, abducting people from their homes, brainwashing people, and bringing them with them. And all of their funding for their military tools and for their food and everything all came from him. And he has made 10 times the profit on the output from everything that they had robbed from other people.
Jesus.
And so far, he has ran into the party multiple times, and they found out. He literally told them straight up what he did. They tried to attack him. He has, like, all these bodyguards. He's a very prominent noble. Do you know what he did to the I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of sidetracked. I'll be done soon. But Reginald was such a horrible person that he has very close ties to this man who is far above a lich in power. He's a chosen champion of the God of Blood. So the God of Blood has granted him immeasurable power. So much power so that he can he knows the process of how to turn people to liches. Well, one of my players, in her backstory, she has had problems with her father. And Reginald is a very well-informed man. He gets a lot of information He has a huge network of people who can pull information from things. So he knows a lot about the party.
You about to kill somebody?
He knows who the party's parents are. He knows
Oh,
everything
no.
about their long lost siblings, and he has all this information on them. He purposely went to go dig up the grave of the father of one of the main characters, and he had somebody drag them all the way to the city where the cult leader conducted a ritual to turn them into a lich. And then he rolled the lich out in a coffin in the middle of the city and handed the key to the daughter of this man. And he's like, "Oh, open it, wouldn't you? There's a right surprise waiting for you inside. It would be a shame for me to spoil such a splendid surprise." Handed her the own key to her own father's coffin, unleashed it. Her father's a lich, attacking them, like in the middle of a city.
Oh my god.
That is
And
truly evil.
he walks away like it was nothing, like laughing. So there she is, facing her own abusive father that has already caused so much trauma in her life, and he's like telling her all these things like, "I never loved you, you were a mistake.
Oh my
You're the
fucking
reason
Christ.
you're the reason your own mother died."
He's got all this trauma, and your character went, "Here, have some more."
Right.
and
Yeah.
he's cackling in the background. And he walks away. And it was such a horrible moment for the character to face that they started crying. And that was one of my moments that I'm like, nice. This guy is really
Nice. Moment was
And that's not even a
Nice.
character.
God
That's even,
fucking-
that's an NPC that you made.
That's an NPC that I've played as a character. He's done a couple other things. One thing I will name is that he did kill her own mother in front of her as well. Which was pretty horrible because the whole thing was her mother was supposed to be alive and well off across the continent, but Reginald has his ways. He definitely has his ways.
I have NPCs that I regret making, mostly just because my players become super attached to them, and I'm like, you weren't supposed to. I have a shopkeeper game called Vargo, and he's just a drunk. He's just a drunken shopkeeper. And if you need anything in town, you could just come to my shop, and I got everything that you need. And the players fucking love him so much.
Yeah. One more thing about Reginald, real quick.
Here we go.
And then I'm done talking about him. He has harbored a network of changeling assassins, and changelings are very rare in my world. And one of the characters, it's the same. It's a separate character. They are in love with the rebel prince of the country that they're in. He's the rebel prince who kind of went off to head his own mercenary company who fights for the better good of people and everything. So he's very charming, charismatic. He's very stoic.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to spoilers. If you're listening, Abby, stop listening right now. But what he has in plan for this network of spies or these changeling assassins is he's going to set them up to take on the form of the charming prince, and he's going to kidnap the actual prince, and he's going to have them take his place and try to kill her at every turn.
Oh my god.
So
as in the disguise of her own love, that she's in love with him too, and they're having a very
I feel so sorry for your entire party in this, because you're just
Yeah,
every
me
person I
too.
meet, you're we're gonna kill them, we're gonna turn them into liches, we're gonna have people pretend to be them. We're
gonna have people you know how much scarring and you know how messed up the concept is of the person that you're falling in love with is trying to murder you.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's gonna be really exciting when we get to that part. I can't wait for it. Anyways, I'm done talking about
All right.
Reginald now. He's
So
a
we're
thorn
talking
in their
about
side. He's-
mistake characters here. Mistake characters.
Okay. So
I swear to God,
guess...
George, if you say sits, I'm gonna be so
no,
annoyed.
I love Sits. Sits is baby, but no. I didn't create this character, but it was an NPC in the game I'm playing right now, and the characters just hated their guts. It was a group. I didn't even create them. It's a actual. If you haven't even heard Acquisitions Incorporated, I had them in the
Yes.
campaign
Oh,
that they're playing because it's set in Neverwinter, and I had them go to the Acquisitions Incorporated headquarters. They met Jim Dark Magic, Omen Drawn, and Binwin Bronzebottom.
Hell yeah.
And basically, I played them up to be assholes because there's this like the players don't know it yet. So any of my players watching, quit. Hold on.
Stop. Cover your ears.
Most likely Monica and Hosi, but
Top.
they there's this like slow like mind like thing that's happening right now because there's this big world changing event about to happen, and it's like making people become less good, basically, to say verbatim. But
Okay.
so this group of heroes is doing really corrupt shit like money laundering and stealing money from people in general and just doing really shoddy business stuff. And they ended up hating this character so much because they get back from space after one of their favorite NPCs dies, Shaman, and they get back to the world, to Faerun near their HQ, and they're like, fuck, this is awful. And then they get back, and then Jim is just sitting there with Galder's tower set up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm selling your house because you haven't been here for 3 months."
Oh my god!
And they're like, and so they, long story short, they tie him to a tree, release him, buy furniture from him from this like side business he's running. He then steals their only artifacts that they have to save the world and sells them to the person who's trying to destroy the world. And then they end up and it was just like they hated these people so much, so they ended up, long story short, they just ended up killing Acquisitions Incorporated in the story.
Screw it, just kill him.
There's something about the trope of like taking an already like predetermined hero and then just making them assholes that is so intriguing. Like I don't want it to happen. I want to love them.
Right.
It's that like you don't meet your heroes.
Don't meet your heroes,
that
exactly.
Thing where it's just
they're nothing like how you thought they were gonna be.
Right, but like even with Acquisitions, their joke is that they do shoddy business practice because it's funny in their like own campaigns, and they're like, yeah, we'll underpay you. But they were like really bad in this game because there's this like mind infection going on, and one of the characters is able to do this ability I gave her called Dream Invasion, where she can grasp onto someone's brain, and if they die from this move with failed wisdom saves, she can extract all the memories of this character. She did it to Jim Dark Magic and got like the whole story of Acquisitions basically, and then up to the point where like this seeping evil starts creeping into them, where like the villain has started talking with them because the villain knew that they were working together with the party, and just like this seeping evil into them, and just like watching these heroes that they killed fall from grace, and it like split the party. It was actually a good setting, but like just the fact I hated was that they just could not stand these people. No matter what I did, I was like, I tried to make them at least a little more likable. They just nothing. They could not stand, and they ended up killing them. And I was like, well,
yeah,
that's happened. That's happened to me though. Like I create these characters for my players to interact with, and they just hate them, and they don't get past the like hatred. And I'm like, you're supposed to like this character, not hate the. And then like that's the only mistake that I've made with like a character, I guess. I haven't been playing D&D for super long, so I haven't crossed that mistake too much yet. But just making a character and having them do like one thing that it's like that's kind of not great, and then all of my players went, "We hate them now," and I'm like,
Right.
They
they're a good
stepped on my
person.
toes. I will kill them now.
Exactly, and I think that's, I don't know if that's necessarily my faulting or
Players
their
are just getting
faulting for
anxious.
yeah, it just like that's my mistake, I guess.
Oh, I wanted to add one short thing too. If you think about like if your players are like, "Dang, I really want to play with you, but you have to DM because you're the only one who can DM."
Oh.
Don't do a DM PC. Don't do a DM PC.
Oh,
DMC.
great!
No,
It's too
no, no,
much. It's too much on you. I learned that the hard way. It doesn't work.
I
Don't do
got.
it.
Thank you for saying that because my mistake character was also a DMPC.
no.
I have a
Oh.
mistake character. Yeah, I doubled down. This was my very first campaign. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing as a role player. I didn't know what I was doing as a storyteller, and I didn't know what I was doing with table etiquette. We'll just call it that. I was very inexperienced at the time with table etiquette. We're all cool now. We're all cool. We're all still. Everyone at the table is cool still with each. By the way, but let it be known, I created a DM PC. I am not ashamed to talk about this story anymore because it was so long ago, and obviously I'm not like you know, it ain't like that. So I'll just preface it like that. I made a DM PC that had a HOTS for a player character.
Oh no.
It bled into real life.
Oh.
Yep.
That is the worst route you can take, I think.
But it wasn't the creepy type. I'll just say that. Thank God it wasn't like the creepy type. It was literally just, you know, both single at the time, and it just kind of bled into in and out. And it wasn't really something that it wasn't invading that person's or player character's privacy. It was just uncomfortable for literally everybody else who didn't know. And then
you guys were having a great time, but everybody else is just like,
we were
I have
shit
also
out
made
of
that mistake.
Out of character.
I can admit
Yeah.
I have also made
Yeah.
that mistake. I was dating somebody who was one of the players in a campaign I was DMing. It didn't get to the point where like it was making them uncomfortable, but it complicated
it was
emotions
complicated,
and things like that.
complicated for everybody else.
And it got particularly complicated when I then broke up with said significant other, and I was just like, it wasn't a great break either, so that kind of ended our campaign right there. So,
Oh, horrible.
before
Well,
yeah.
I was dating somebody who was a player, and she had never played before and was never really got used to the character. And everybody else was on a kind of different level in terms of the game. And my partner at the time was incapable of separating real life from the game. So when another character showed any sort of hatred towards her character, she took it personally and caused a lot of conflict within the group. But luckily, I got them like that's done, and now I have like my actual players still in the game, and I'm so happy that they're still here. And I just Deus Ex Machina made that character vanish from existence, never to be heard from again.
Yep.
Because they were not a great character.
I
Probably
will
the
end
best route.
I will end my story with out of character. Me and that player character were like low key is like, yo, I totally ship our characters. Like it would be really fun and shit like that. And that was so it was a result of like shipping metagaming that turned into something that was just like, where's this coming from the rest of the party, because things accelerated so quickly of like a character you just met in game like 2 weeks ago. So it was like and now I was like, now for me, like I hardly like I flipped so much in the opposite direction now that I don't initiate anything now with any of the characters that I play or NPCs that I do with anybody. I was like, I'm just gonna let them do first move, and then of course I'll
Right.
reply. But
Mm.
now it was such like a
You never
harsh,
initiate.
I don't initiate. Of course, I'll make in character like side remarks. So for people who hear that Eggy and Dan know Maverick, he's a very he's a charisma caster, so he's always gonna have that little bit of posh boy flair about him. And what part of his flaws is that he's a sucker to a pretty face. So I'll lean into that when it comes to a character's personality type, but I won't lean into that as an interaction type. Just a character, just a personality flaw is that he's a sucker for a pretty face.
Lugos is so much the opposite of that.
He's like, I hate everyone.
He's a feral man.
Feral man. I've made the mistake too of taking things too personally as like through roleplay, just because.
I luckily haven't made that mistake yet. I always make sure that there is a fine disconnect in that realm, so to make sure that things bleed over into reality. But in my campaigns, I do make very flirty NPCs and stuff, and that's how the one player ended up falling in love with like the Rebel Prince.
So, actually, speaking of Scorch, your partner's in your game right now.
Yes,
So what's that like?
Honestly, it's great. Me and my partner have been together for almost 2 years now. And we live together.
She's amazing.
Yeah, Monica.
She's awesome. Amazing. She is really cool.
Yeah, we're moved in now together. It's fine, and we have, there's not. It's being able to, not bring obviously, it's a group of really close friends. Like, these are some of my closest friends in real life. So we're able to interact and joke around and do stuff that strangers can't, So it works out really well because everyone knows we're dating. 2 other players are dating in the group. So it's really, it works out really well in this case. And I think it can work out really well in general for anybody. It just also depends on,
I feel like it depends on the group,
partner.
Depends on the people.
Yeah, it depends on your...
Absolutely.
Right, because
the way that your group interacts with each other.
Right, because my partner has played before and does role play, so it was nothing out of the ordinary. But even
you
still,
gotta make sure everybody's on the same page all the time.
Right,
you gotta be, you gotta be good with everybody. But real quick before we move topics, I want to hear back from Dan and Lance, of course. About any character mistakes or mistake characters, so to speak,
or a big old D&D taboo or red flag.
Well, I'd say biggest I guess
I don't know. I don't have any I have NPCs I've made that I've regretted making, but never any PC I've had has always been a character that I was genuinely invested in. But I'm more of a DM than a player anyway, so most of my characters would be NPCs that I've created anyway.
I think that I haven't had any mistake characters, but I've definitely had character mistakes. The one time that me and my one party that I'm playing with got into a legitimate not a legitimate fight, but we were just angry with each other over it, was one night we were in the Underdark and we were trying to stop this coal elemental from being lit on fire, and we were doing all of these things, and we got into my character got into an argument with another character, and then she broke character, and I didn't realize she broke character, and she was trying to talk with me out of character, but it still sounded like she was in character, and I was still in character, talking in character with her, and she was out of character, and she didn't have a good understanding of the area around us and what was going on around us, distance wise and stuff like that. The description was kind of vague, and she didn't stop and ask more about it, and I was like, that's not if I had known she was out of character, I would have broken character and gone, I think that your picture of the room is wrong, because of this, but I didn't realize that because I thought she was in character,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Oh,
ended very badly, and added on to that with some technology issues since we were playing over Discord, where later in that fight as well, some things went very wrong because her microphone kept cutting out and I did not hear a couple of the things that she had said, and so the party got split up really badly because I didn't hear her say, "Here, come stay over here or do this thing." And my character ended up getting isolated from everyone and then ended up getting got pretty bad. So it was a bad situation to be in overall.
man,
Oof.
I hate moments like that.
Language
so,
boundaries,
so
man.
much.
Language
Not
barriers
even just
are a
language
rough one.
boundaries, but like understanding. That's why I don't think it's necessary, but I think it can add to a level of being out of character. In characters doing character voices or impressions. It's
Definitely.
not required, but if you give your character even like a slightly different way of talking than your regular voice,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to be able to identify it when it's something's out of character versus when something's in character.
Yeah.
I say a lot of stupid stuff out of character, and they know it's out of character because
Yep.
it's my normal
Because
voice.
that's an issue that I've had with some players as a DM, where it's like they don't have character voices and then they make a joke out of character, but I'm like, no, that's in character because I'm going to hold you to this because of this reason, which has also caused issues in the past. And I'm like,
Yeah, I've had that, speaking of out of character talk, I've had that with a very good friend of mine who's a dungeon master that taught me, Corvin. All of the dungeon master skills that I've learned had like 90% of them have come from Corvin. He's a forever DM that's been doing it for a handful of years. And he's a player, RC208, in my Eris campaign. And he is it's one of those moments where you get the forever DM to finally play a character, and it's like this holy grail moment. He has taken some things that I've said when I played Horde of the Dragon Queen with him, where I would say, I was like, oh, there's like this 4-foot ledge down to like a bed of hay on the other side of the farm fence, and I would joke, be like, I do a front flip and go into it like Assassin's Creed style. He's like, roll acrobatics. I'm like, no, I actually don't do a front flip. He's like, roll acrobatics.
Yeah, I will, as a DM, I will hold my players to stuff like that if it's not very clear, because also something that I've seen some players do where they'll make a joke and it's in character, but then they realize that it's like it's not the right time to make a joke like that in character, and they'll be like, oh, no, it was out of character, and I'm like, I'm going to hold you to this. You said this.
This is what you said.
This is what you said. You said it. Now roll.
80%, 75% of the time, if someone says, sorry, that was out of character, I'll let it slide. Especially if it's something like, I cast fireball, like obviously that's a joke.
Yeah.
But if it's something like where it's just like, all right, well then I'll just, if they're like planning something in their head or whatever, and they'll say it out loud to, even if it is not in the character voice.
They hear you saying this, by the way.
Yeah. It's just like where sometimes they're still in their character voice. They have like an argument with an NPC that's like a henchman to a BBEG, and they'll say, oh, fuck this guy. And I said, you say it. He turns around and goes, mouth on you. And you said that now in character, like even though you were frustrated in the moment, I took your mistake and added as a seasoning to this dish that I've prepared, and now we have a little nemesis action going on.
It's also like when you're in character, it's I find, at least for myself, it's hard to break out of character thought sometimes to say things out of character.
Oh, yeah.
So most of what you're going to be saying is in character anyways, and if that's your knee-jerk reaction to say that, like, your character says that, and you don't get to say that.
Yeah, add it. Don't do takesy backsies for something that could be an amazing character development between you and NPCs as well. Even if you're like, I don't want to say anything to get myself killed. Well, that's half metagaming, because like if your character would just like say, oh, fuck that guy. Like, I hope he falls down a well, and it's like, Noted.
That's the
NPC
thing.
will
It's
remember
like,
that.
you
Yeah.
ever, you ever
Yep,
have
yep,
like
yep.
These
you
actions
ever
will have consequences.
you ever have players that try to walk away from that situation winning in that like type of argument?
Mhm.
Like they'll try to argue like, oh no, I totally didn't say that, and they'll enter that argumentative mode where they're like standing up against the DM. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
Fence mode.
for me is one of my biggest pet peeves is when players try to fight the DM. Where
Yeah.
like for me as a DM and then also for me as a player, I think it's one thing to go, hey, I think that ruling's a little wrong, and to challenge it like one time and be like, I are you sure about that? But as soon as the DM says it a second time, as soon as they
Yep.
restate it, you go with that because
Yep.
it is their
Right.
game, it is
Yep.
their rules. They're making this world for you. They're setting this up for you. You owe them so much for doing all of this, especially those perma DMs that we all know, like who are desperate to play but are running campaigns for you anyways. Like
Right.
to try and fight them on a rules calling or something like that is so disrespectful to me and makes me
It
so
very much
angry.
is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I try to be as respectful as possible as
Yeah.
a player.
And there are some times where it's like, yeah, we need to talk with the DM about this calling because it's a little off, but
Sure.
stopping the game in order to sit and like squabble with the DM
Yeah,
is
it's just stupid.
disrespectful.
Very.
Especially if it's over something that doesn't change like a combat encounter outcome.
Mhm.
You know, if you're doing
if
all
it's
this
something
just so a tilt touch didn't do 4 hit points of necrotic damage to you at the auto, that's like, if you're gonna, if it doesn't
Exactly, yeah.
detriment your character's personal development and it doesn't change the combat encounter's end result, then there's no point in bringing it up.
I
Right.
think that
Yeah.
there's the only thing that you're allowed to talk with, like, really like put your foot down on as a player with your DM, I think is character development stuff
Mhm,
and
absolutely.
character
Right.
story stuff.
But
Like
even
it-
in that case, you
Yep.
should be communicating beforehand anyway.
Exactly,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
I
why we
think
have
that if it's
session
like
zero. Session 0.
Yeah,
It has it
exactly.
right there in the
Yeah,
title. It's right there in the title.
Or just talking to your players before the game starts and putting in detail what your characters are.
hmm
I always and just communicating if you're gonna do something.
we actually
Agreed.
have a couple questions to kind of wrap up.
Yeah, Dan.
We have
them off.
one from Jonas. It's what is the best way you handled a player's death or a death that was handled pretty well in your eyes?
Oh, yeah. I don't
Scorchy,
wanna...
go ahead. Do you want to take that first?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Scorchy?
go for it.
Yeah, I'd say definitely the one I did that I'm super proud of, the one I already discussed with the campaign I'm talking about is called Wizard of Wish, the one with the dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Because I made it this whole thing where they carried the bodies to a shelter and took care of the bodies, and then a druid that was there in game canonly was like helping them. I rewrote the story for them to like make sure that they got a valid goodbye, and they took time
Yep.
to bury the person. Yeah, and literally with this, I created with this character's death, since they were Kalashtar, I had the quarry, what's it called? When
And the ancestor spirit, right?
yeah, no, what's it called when a ghost like takes over a body?
Possession.
Yeah, I had the quarry possess the old bard's body, and that became her new character with a different class.
Oh, that's epic.
Yeah, and now the whole story is about them reviving their friend so that she doesn't permadie because the quarry is slowly killing the body.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's probably my favorite.
I've never had any player deaths, so I can't answer this
Not yet.
question.
Not yet. You
Not
say
yet.
that
I
means
swear to God,
that means your
Knock on
encounters
wood,
need to
man.
be harder. Get more pack tactics in your combats.
Let's see.
Anyway, I
I
have
have had character
you have one?
deaths.
Go ahead.
I do. In my campaign, I focus heavily on like old gods versus like a new gods and how these old gods hold like unimaginably strong power, but they have lost touch with the mortal or the material plane because the people stopped like worshipping them. Therefore, their influence got very, very thin. It got so thin to the point where it was reduced to this small isle that is like has this cursed mist that was cast upon it by the new god of wind, sea, and fortune to stop anybody from going there. but he has put out like these 20 tokens across the entire world that people can get that will bring them safe passage to the Isles in case they want to commune with the old gods. And lo and behold, one of the players is a warlock of the old gods, of one of the old gods who is the weaver of fate and like the creator of destinies and shit like that.
Is that the old one or the ancient one?
That is Pact of the Celestial, actually.
Oh, the celestial one. Okay.
Yeah, because it's an old god. They ended up getting one of these coins, and they kind of knew the backstory of what it was. I had one of the players die during the Lich fight, with that Reginald kind of threw out there.
Mhm.
Reginald,
And-
he's back.
Yep.
He made a return.
He's come back.
He's back.
That bastard
Back
don't stay
again.
dead.
He, so what they had to do is that they had to take this side passage. She used her one coin to bring him to the Isle of the old gods, casting like a gentle repose on like the body, making sure it doesn't rot, kind of like preserving it any way they can. And when they reach the like temple of the fallen old god, it's like in ruins and everything, he would not give them the ability of resurrection. He absolutely refused, unless she promised permanent servitude in the afterlife to him. And they care a lot about each other. So what they ended up doing, of course, is that she ended up making a promise to become a permanent servant of the old god in the afterlife.
Wow.
Because this was like beyond revivify and everything. Like this body was like mangled and like horribly killed.
Just do it, like giving up something like that just to save a friend is, I think, like the character moments like that genuinely like make me happy to be a DM.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just like it shows that they really care for each other.
Hmm.
I got a player death. Eggy will know who this is. Afro, if you're watching this, post up. Shout out to our halfling rogue named Rig.
Yes.
He was probably one of the more impactful player deaths. I've had 2 player deaths, and this one is way better than my first player death. This is my second ever player death I've ever had, and I still have 2 so far. I've had a lot of NPC deaths, but not player deaths. But this player death, he's an arcane trickster, multi-class into divination wizard, and he really likes to like think up hijinks. He plans schemes, heists, that kind of thing. He has the brain of a mastermind, but with the capacity of an incompetent teenager. So half the time, a lot of his plans don't go through the way that he thinks he does, but then he uses his luck points from his lucky feet and his halfling luck to make it somehow work. Like an ill-managed, poorly thought-out mastermind plan somehow works because of his lucky feet, and everyone's like, how the hell does he get away with this shit? Well, he finally dies because of teleportation circles and not knowing that there are enemies waiting on the other side. He charges ahead, says the passphrase because he knows the language, activates the teleportation circle, which there was 2 enemies still standing on that teleportation circle, so he teleported himself and 2 enemies into a secluded location of a teleportation room where he later got the shit kicked out of him. Because there was other guards in that room on the other side. He died off screen from the rest of the party. But what made this great, what made this great is because normally killing off a player character off screen is yikes, because you don't have that moment.
Yikes.
The moment came back, it was like this slow burn. Right? The party on the other side of the original side of the teleportation circle finished combat, and everyone's like, "Where's Rick? Where's Rick? Where's Rick?" He had this plan. He had Molotov cocktails and improvised explosives in his backpack that he was gonna light, throw on the teleportation circle on the other side, say the command word one more time, teleports the creatures, because it's objects that's not being worn and carried, so it leaves the bomb behind, and it would blow up one end of the teleportation circle so more enemies can't come flooding through. You know, and cool guys don't look at explosions. That was his plan. Didn't really work out that way because he had a shitty initiative roll. Otherwise, the rest of the fight happened on the original side of the teleportation circle. Where's Rig? Where's Rig? Okay. Go in. Say the teleportation word. I'm in. Empty room. Blood trail. All the way to the door. Blood trail.
Fuck.
Let's follow. Let's investigate. They come up. They do stealth. And they see Rig. He's standing, and he looks incredibly hurt. He's limping. His arms are swaying from side to side. He looks battered, beaten, bruised, bloodied, mangled. All of his stuff's gone. He's dragging, his rapier in his scabbard because it's too long for him. And he's dragging, and he's like looking at the party with these dead, shallow eyes, like he just went through hell and back. They're like, Rig, what's up? And he's not responding. I command Rig to go attack the party as an undead. He died off screen. He was raised dead by a necromancer and commanded to fight him.
No.
They didn't know he was undead. They thought he was
Why
just
do you
crazy.
have such sad character things?
Dude,
Ryan?
Oh yeah, look
Cool.
forward to that when I DM for you guys. So the party was like, Rig, calm down. There, Magpie, played by Iggy, comes up and just decks him in the face to try to snap him out of it, and then he's like, screw this, I'm gonna have to knock him out because there are these hostiles in another room I have to deal with. It's another member of this cult of the Black Sun. Magpie just stabs Rig, says, I gotta knock you out, buddy, you're being stupid right now, and re-kills Rig. And the cleric of the party comes up, and Magpie's like, Vin, you're a cleric, do something about this.
I like how you're starting to do his voice.
And she comes up and does a medicine check, and then she reveals to the rest of the party, says, Rig's dead. Like, his skin is cold. He's been dead for a little while. And Magpie's like, what? I just stabbed him. He was walking just a second ago. He's like, it's based on my medicine, and did a religion check and a medicine check. He's like, he's been dead for about a half hour. And like all of a sudden it was like this huge revelation. It was like, that wasn't Rig. And they took him, wrapped him in a blanket, and fucking just started trucking. Took him to a temple of the church district in this high elven kingdom that was part of that cleric's backstory. So we got a little sprinkly action in there.
Mhm.
Brought him, realized that there was nothing they could do unless they could afford it because the materials required for a resurrection are expensive. Left his body there, cut off a piece of his toe, and at that and this is 2 sessions. So session 1, super dead, running to a kingdom. Session 2, they're at the kingdom of the church district. Afro introduces his second character to help mourn with the party
His
as
first
a
character.
shadow sorcerer that studies the dead. His second character takes the toe in the urn of ashes as part of material components of reincarnation. He is helping now the party as an escort, as a seancer to the dead, to help him get reincarnated in some far off druid place called Sanctuary that's so secluded from the rest of the world. And now there's this whole arc. Afro's second character has this whole arc of getting to know Rig through the eyes of other players and not just through his own eyes. So he gets to experience what other people thought of his character from other people's
that's
perspectives.
So good.
That's so fucking smart. That's crazy.
And I wrote that in, and he's part of Shadowfell, so not only does he dream about Shadowfell, Rig's soul is in Shadowfell because in his last rites he wanted to be redeemed. So the thing is with Shadowfell is that souls that don't deserve to be in Afterlife, Celestial, or Hells or otherwise end up in Shadowfell in this limbo place. Is like, we'll wait your judgment, just get in line at the DMV. His shadow sorcerer named Bell sometimes dreams that he's in Shadowfell, and he gets to talk to Rig. So he had a one-on-one conversation with himself. I was like, it was so crazy. The Raven Queen gets involved with Safe Passage of Souls, which Aggi's character is tied to the Raven Queen. which is really nice. So everything's all coming together, and we're at a tipping point in this campaign. That's my
I love
player
it.
death
Everything's
story.
coming together,
That's
just like Arcane Recovery.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's a story of killing a character off screen just to have it come back 10 times harder.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless anybody has anything else to add.
Well, I don't
Mm.
have a character death necessarily, a character death story, but more of a area death, if that
Okay.
makes sense. Our party had traveled into the Underdark, into these like miles and miles below the surface. We were going to help a druid hold called Nzanze, which had been attacked by corrupt necromantic druids. And basically, like, everybody had died, and it was my druid and another druid. We had been sent by our order to go down here and to find out what happened to Nzanze. And while on our way down, we find all of these horrible things going on in this area of the world that's basically been abandoned by the rest of the world almost and ignored. We encounter the coal elemental, which I mentioned earlier, which had a magma magma python driven into its heart by an enemy in order to cause the coal elemental to strike fire, causing, coal fires, which are very, very bad.
Mhm.
And as druids, since there are 2 druids in the party, and also the other 2 members of the party are just genuinely good people and are like, this sucks. We need to help
Yeah.
heal this area. We attempted to fix that. We ended up stopping the coal fire as best we could, which was like really upsetting because we saw the aftermath of like the gnome settlement that was nearby and like the ash covering everything. And we continue down deeper and deeper and deeper, finding all of these more upsetting things. We hear about the nature spirit Ayaba, the burrower who has tunneled deeper and isn't like responding to the gnomes that normally sacrifice things to them. And we find that Ayaba is slowly dying because there's a hydra that has attacked and there's no druids around to help him because they've all abandoned this area. And it's a big character moment for my character where it's like, maybe my order isn't as good as we say they are, because they've left this area to die on its own and to fall apart. And we
Yeah.
get further down and we go to my character's like home tribe that they've never been to. They didn't even know about it, the Ndege tribe. They're adopted, and one of their moms was from this tribe originally. And my character shows up and is like, "Hi, yeah, it's my mom was a chief, and I guess I'm in line for the throne. Hi, nice to meet you. Oh,
Shit.
you're my sister, yeah. Hi, we've never met before. I didn't know you existed until I called my mom recently, and asked her
Wow.
about it, for different reasons. And seeing the decline of this great like nation, this great tribe that's down here, they're in the midst of a war because the sacred flame from the heart of this other nature spirit, Zinzu, who's the heart of the tribe, who has healing capabilities and has kept the tribe prosperous for all of this time. His power and his sacrifice a while ago, which drove a sliver of magma into his heart, which allows the Ndege to survive in this like magma encrusted, hot as hell, like horrible, like hellish land. It allows them to survive here and to live here. And he's dying because the sacred flame has been taken from him. And so everything is falling apart. The Ndege are doing everything that they can. They're fighting a war with who they think stole the flame, but we don't really think that they did steal the flame. The only hope left is this nature spirit that we found in like the second session. This nature spirit, his name is Jubba Jubba. He's like a child, basically. And our party has had him for a while, and he got sick part of the way through. There's a possibility that if you sacrifice Jubba Jubba, it could possibly revive Zinzu and bring back the tribe and make the tribe strong
Ooh,
again.
moral
But
dilemma.
yeah, huge moral
Mm.
dilemma.
Sacrifice.
But it would sacrifice this like child, basically. This small magma child who can only say Jubba Jubba, and everybody that meets him loves him. And there's a possibility that Jubba's power, the remaining power, could bring back all of those who have died in Nzanze. And it's this big, like, debate, which we end up not sacrificing Jubba. We end up trying to do our best for the tribe. By not sacrificing Jubba, we piss off somebody else, and he goes and brings the Salamander army and attacks the nation. My character meets their grandfather for the first time and has a conversation with him, and then comes back to the Salamanders, assassinating him like 1 hour later. And it's all of this death and all of this destruction, and the Zinzu is dying and is going to die, and he's going to return to his queen, basically, and die before her. And the Ndege aren't going to be able to live in this area anymore. They have to leave. They have to leave their homeland. They have to leave all of these things and find a new place to live. Ayaba has died in fighting this horrible monster that was abandoned by the tribe. Everything around us is just falling apart and is so depressing. And we get the capstone of it is that we fly with Zinzu to where his queen is, which is a magma elemental, and he returns the chunk of magma that has been resting in his heart for a long time, keeping the Ndege alive. And he dies there, and Ayaba and his spirits go back to her, and she blesses my character with shield, spear of like their ancestors, basically, and also like it gives a influence point, which is a druid thing in our campaign. But basically, like, everything is riding on my character and their sister, and it's like the future of this is riding on you. You now carry your whole lifeline with you moving forward and doing all of these things.
That's
and
heavy.
this is the this is the same character also that is like dying from Drake's sickness too, and is
shit. Oh damn.
And
So much.
even deeper, we
So
have to
much
pass through
pressure.
this old city, Daris Nutherak, which there is a old like dragon that has like killed this whole area hundreds and hundreds of years ago. There's a possibility of a piece of their cure there in Daris Nutherak. Things are so bad, like everything has died, but there's a sliver of hope. And we get into Daris Nutherak. The Ndege are planning on leaving the Underdark and going back up to the surface and finding new places. And we go to Daris Nutherak, and we go in like a SWAT team, and we're like, we go in, we get the thing, we get out, we gotta go. And then we experience a TPK. Because we fucked up really badly. Our necromancer got his part of his soul taken. Our bard ended up seeing like gods and stuff. One of the druids ended up seeing a Fey gate. Like, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. We were in this library where the necromancer's soul had been taken. We run into the dragon that's been controlling this area and living in this area for so long, and the dragon immediately uses command or some not command, but dominate person on my character, forces me to attack our necromancer, and I end up getting an opportunity attack on him. I rolled a nat 20. I had something cast on my spear at the time to deal extra damage. I kill him outright.
Nice.
And then
I like it. We're all like, that's so awful, and
that's
Peggy's
so
like,
awful.
Fucking
Nice.
sick, dude.
I mean,
kill
it
him
is.
outright, and
It
all
is.
of us are standing there, and it's the top of the initiative order. I'm at the bottom of the initiative order. It's the top of the initiative. They just run. Everyone else in the party runs, and my character is left fighting off the dominate person with, do I leave my friend who I just killed here on the ground, or do I run and try and live another day? And they ended up running, and we all ended up on a big bad chase with a giant fucking dragon following us, and ending up one of the characters jumped into a Fey gate. One of the characters ended up getting killed but whisked away by his gods. One of the characters ended up doing a badass gravity bomb in the middle of the city, killing the dragon but killing himself in the process. And my character is left standing there as all of this happened in front of them, and is the only one to survive, and is standing in like, oh shit.
What
Yeah,
happened?
but how do they feel about
What
surviving
happened?
like that?
Survivor's
it's-
guilt. Let's go.
Oh boy, they got real bad survivor's guilt now.
Speaking of trauma,
How we moved forward and moved on is that the character that ended up in the Fey Gate got really fucked up by magic and ended up coming back 6 months, and it feels like nothing happened. Everyone assumes that she's dead. The necromancer that did get his soul, like part of his soul was taken. Various things with his destiny happened, and he was brought back, and he doesn't know how he was brought back. So currently we're trying to figure out how he was brought back. And then our bard made a deal with the devil basically, and is now a I believe it's something in Gaelic culture, Irish culture, the Fae and stuff like that, a fetch, and so is now fetching people's souls for the wisps and things like that.
Nice.
And we've all run back into each other and all had to like be like, oh fuck, huh? I'm not the only survivor. This is hard to deal with. That
whole just character story is just so crazy.
To make matters worse, my character also everyone died. We were going to Inzanze, we were going to attempt to help and to bring everybody back and to try and do things, but on their own, they couldn't do anything. All they could do is survey what happened, return to the Druid Order, go back home, stand before a big council and be like, hey, here's all my trauma that I experienced. This happened. And the Druid Order goes, good job! Here, you are boosted 2 ranks in the Order. Good work. And my character's just like, I don't want to be
surveying?
rewarded for being the last standing.
Just doing a mission
At
survey.
that
Oh my
point,
god.
I
Yeah.
don't know, your character should just like end up leaving the order that they're working for.
I mean,
Let's not get you.
We've got some issues. We got a lot of issues with that currently.
Let's
Don't
save
need to get
it for
into that.
another time because that is something all of us are gonna have to delve into. Because we would love to have another episode of this, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So
we gotta
definitely.
get ready for the fucking
we
one
do
shot.
gotta prep for the one shot. So as we start doing up our wrapping up closing statements, this is promo time. Lance,
Yeah.
you can
Wow.
rattle off as much about yourself, what you're doing, what people can do to interact with you, and where to find you, what projects you're working on. Dice, still selling, or did you sell out on Etsy already?
I am not yet sold out. I've got 3 sets still up, and then some resin goodies that I've made. I've got this orange set I know is still up most definitely,
Sherbert.
and I think that this purple set is up still. Not 100% sure, but go check me out. My Etsy shop is Dicecraft by Lance. You can find that linked in my Instagram bio and my TikTok bio, which is dice_night on both platforms. I just love Dungeons and Dragons and making my dice and playing with these wonderful people. And if you guys want to come check me out, please, it's only good vibes allowed. So yeah.
And
Nice,
Sc0rchyy.
absolutely.
Sc0rchyy, you got anything you want to plug?
I guess just my own Twitch, twitch.tv/Sc0rchyy. It's spelled in my little name thing here. I'm currently running my camping with my friends here. And I'm working on starting up my own podcast with them as well. And then once this game comes to a close, there'll be a whole new campaign that you can watch. It's a school setting with kind of like My Hero Academia, with like where the adventurers have
Anime
E,
like
5e,
ranks,
huh?
and they work like heroes in a way. So yeah, it'll be really fun.
And
Nice.
and support Sc0rchyy and music when we
Hell yeah.
feature those
Yeah, that is
on Arcane Recovery campaign.
So very quickly, Lance, just
Yeah.
entice the viewers about to come back and watch you this one shot that
Oh.
you're about to do? Just give them like a real quick, just like little bit.
'Cause we'll be
Would
coming
you
back.
would you like me to read the opening monologue?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Sure.
go for it.
Go right ahead.
All right.
Take it away.
The sky is a dark midnight blue, scattered with shimmering silver stars spread across the horizon, with a large yellow moon peering down on you. You can hear the rhythmic churning of the mechanics and feel the constant shaking of the train car you ride in. The air around you feels heavy, with the weight of a job you know's lying before you. Each of you has been called in by your agency to settle a rather upsetting incident that has occurred in the small mana ore mining town known as Grave Springs. Sheriff Michael Haynes called into your agency asking for a group of investigators to make their way into town to help solve the murder of one Elizabeth Taylor. According to Haynes, she was found by a miner in the middle of the night, slain violently on her doorstep. And it's your job to find out who's killed her before the rest of the town starts to wake up with the dawn and starts to question things. Because if you're not able to do this, this murder will be the breaking point in the last piece of semblance found within this dying town. And that is the introduction and the hook.
I'm so excited.
Ah,
So,
Sounds so cool, dude.
like, so
I am so excited for you guys to experience this. This I wrote this a while ago. I've played this with a couple of people before. I overall really love the story that I've created for this.
absolutely.
And the best thing is you can watch it right back here.
Yep.
We're gonna take a
Mhm.
break.
Quick
what's,
break.
what's our start time? Because it's 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Do we want to give ourselves a half-hour break?
Do 30-minute or 45.
30 to 40.
Yeah, I believe
minutes.
we were slated to start at 3 originally, right?
Yeah, so
Originally,
yeah.
we were slated to start at 3.
we could start a little bit sooner. Do we want to just say 45 minutes?
Sure, I can take 45. I can take some time.
Right.
Yeah,
Be good.
So come back in
Also,
45
we will be
minutes.
joined
Yeah.
by an extra person.
What's
we
up?
will be
And
joined by
for anybody still watching, make sure if you like what you saw, please drop a follow.
Yeah.
Potentially, if you can afford it, drop a
This-
subscribe.
Next month when
every
we
little
have
bit
a
helps.
sub button.
Oh,
I want to
next
go.
month,
We
of
can do
course.
some shout outs right now for all the people that followed just on this stream alone.
Yeah, let's do some shout outs.
Thank you, Sc0rchyy, The Forbidden Library, Dragons of the Round Table, Tin Wallen, Sassafras Tarot, Pathetic Slob, Alchemesty Zias, Pierre Malio 7, Gray
Hell yeah.
Coon 98.
Hell yeah.
Every
That's just the
wonderful
people that we got today. We got quite a bit.
Thank you
Nice.
for helping build up Arcane Recovery during its early phase.
Mhm.
Can't thank you
Mhm.
enough. Very grateful.
But more importantly,
Please,
thank you to our two special guests today.
Absolutely.
of course, more
Absolutely.
importantly, thank you to my good friend Sc0rchyy and Lance as well. Both of you guys have been
Also
totally
my friend.
amazing.
Yeah, we are
All of
talking.
our
My friend.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
You know Lance way better than I do.
And we
at
also
this point.
got, we should probably shout out the follows that we got before our inaugural episode. Xander K's, Mongoose GG, A Pain in the Ass, Anime Betch 101, Manda, Laser 776, El Panda Chen, Zone Knight. Anything else?
Thank you very much. Well,
And as also Monkle Dan and Agley Bagelface.
Yes, I hope to see you guys here in the next 45 minutes
hell yeah.
for the game that Lance will be running.
Yes, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. In the
Awesome.
meantime,
But,
All
I'm gonna go
right.
get lunch with my mom.
All right, awesome. See
Yeah.
ya.
Bye.
45 minutes.
We'll see ya. All right. Hold on one
Okay.
second. I'm going to throw out an ending card really quick.
Throw out that ending card.